Since the beginning of time, boys have liked girls and girls have liked boys. As a teen, that can be pretty exciting, but as a parent, that can be pretty scary. So today we're going to talk about some ways we've seen families do it right and some ways we've seen it go wrong and what you can do about it as a family.
Hey everybody, welcome to the First Youth Podcast, the place where we discuss common themes facing teens and their parents. I'm Gabe Vanderstel, joined by my compadre Kyle Hand.
How you doing?
Today's topic, forbidden love, teen dating.
Yes. Yeah, and we're going to go over some things here, and I felt like it was important, we talked about this, to say this. I don't think 100% of the things that we're going to talk about work for 100% of the families 100% of the time. Now, that might seem like I'm shooting us in the foot before we get started, but a lot of people I've seen books or comments or strategies, and then they'll say, well, I tried that and it didn't work, or, well, that's not going to be for our family. And it's true, it shouldn't be, because your family's different. So we'll get into that, but just a disclaimer, don't take this as like a formula to walk forward and then go into your family and say, we fixed it. It's just not going to happen.
Like any topic when it relates to parenting, especially parenting teens,
sure.
We firmly believe you should take each student or each one of your children individually.
Yes.
And it doesn't, it's not a formula
No.
you just push across the board.
No.
So let's talk about teen dating. What are some common things that we've seen in youth ministry and maybe some areas where we say, hey, this would be helpful to you as parents, or teens, this would be helpful to you?
Yeah, one of the things I thought was it should just be put out there, maybe in your family, or maybe just this will be helpful, is that this is a sensitive topic for families. It's a sensitive topic for sometimes dad and mom, or if it's just mom and home, whatever. That relationship and the kid there. Sometimes dad and mom aren't exactly on the same page. And so they're talking to their kid, and sometimes it's two different things, and the kid doesn't know what to take or what to do. And so it's just sensitive. There's a lot of emotions rolled into it. There's a lot of history. There's a lot of fear in the future. So it's charged. And so when you walk into this, maybe that's just something that parents and family can admit to start off with, is this is a sensitive topic, and all of a sudden somebody can get bumped the wrong way and things are said. And so let's just admit before we go in, it doesn't feel very safe when you walk into this because there's so much going on. So I think that's definitely one of them. Just, it's tough.
Very emotionally charged topic.
Yeah.
Teenagers in general, emotionally charged.
Yes.
Parents know this to be true. There might be times in your parenting, and parents, you know this, where, hey, this isn't the best time to talk to my teen about this specific topic. So just navigating those things, understanding your student, and understand that this is a very important thing for them.
Yeah.
And I think that will go a long way.
Yeah.
When it comes to the scenarios or the stories that we know of where things have kind of gone bad in the relationship between parent and teen because of dating, because of that topic. Yeah. What are some of the common themes or strands of things that we've seen, and why do you think those relationships end up going south there? Yeah.
There's a couple of common things, like you're saying, that families struggle with. Now, there's things about like a personality or a type of family or a situation that we can't get into because it's so varied. But there are things, like you're saying, that are common to a lot of families. And so one of them I would say is this, and this probably leans right after the whole it's a sensitive topic, is that there's a lack of trust between kid and parent authority figure, whoever's at home, who's the parental unit, right, and the teenager. There's a lack of trust between those two before dating even gets started. If anything, dating just brings it out. This is just a highlight of some special topic that you talk about, and before you can get into it, there's a loss of trust already. And so before you can even start to talk about it, you're starting on negative ground. You're starting on uneven ground, and it doesn't help. It makes it really difficult, and to blame it all on dating, or to blame it all on the teen, or to blame it all on the parent isn't true. They just don't have that trust.
So dating in that instance isn't the problem, or that boyfriend, that girlfriend isn't the issue. It's just manifesting a foundational crack in the relationship.
Yeah. And sometimes that really does come from a teen has not been trustworthy in the past. Maybe when they were younger, the way they talked to their friends, maybe they were a little deceptive. Maybe the phone was a struggle. And so there's a loss of trust there. Sometimes, and teens will say this more common than not, sometimes it's the parent's reaction to things in the past. So when they were little and they got in trouble, mom blew up. when they were little and they got in trouble, dad was a monster. And so whether or not those things are accurate, it's how they perceive them. And so that lack of trust can be on either side. Teen did something, or mom and dad's reaction scares them. And so they don't want to get into this topic with all the emotionally charged stuff too.
And understanding as a parent how your teen perceives you can go a long way. And sometimes just asking them, maybe, why have we struggled to communicate about these certain things? Just open communication obviously solves so many issues in teens and parents.
Now, with that though, okay, so because maybe we need to do like another part 2 to this. Yeah. Because we're gonna bump into parents again here, and I don't want to sound like we're attacking parents, but you do set the tone for your family in such a strong way. You have to, as a leader, right? It all falls back to me. I set the tone, I allowed things, or I introduced things. So it's just the way it goes. But here's where I lean into the next one. A lack of empathy for the world of a teenager. A lack of empathy for the world of a teenager. Like, I know when my kids are riding their bikes near the car, I'm a little bit more hesitant to allow them to just go wild. Because if that car gets dinged or nicked, it's on me to pay for it, and it's not cheap, and it's not, you know, I don't want it to continue to happen. This car carries us around all over the place. And so for kids, they don't see that as, oh, it's just a family car. It's not just the family car. It's an expensive thing that we have to pay for and is not paid off yet.
Investment, yeah.
So it's you know, good grief, this is a problem. So that's a problem we see. Kids just don't understand. They don't see that it's important to us. Like, it's just the car. Dad will just get another one if there's a problem. For parents, it's the same thing though. We look at teenagers, we'll look at their world, and we'll go, it's just this. It's just a truck. That little truck that they have is their whole world. It's their only truck. We'll just buy another one. Well, they don't even know another one exists. So that gets into teenage years, and those relationships mean so much to them. And when a parent goes, it's just a little relationship, you'll be done in a month, that really does tear a teenager down.
When you treat your teen's big thing in their world as childish or silly, you've ostracized yourself from that relationship.
Because they don't see it as silly. They don't. So
the empathy there, also empathy being the fact that you can put yourself in their shoes. It's not necessarily you agree with it, and it might be silly. It might be not the best thing for them, but to put yourself in their shoes, remember back to when you were a teenager. I know it's hard to do that as a responsible adult, but remember back to the age where that was the biggest thing in the world to them. I see this in my own daughters, and Haley's just 3 years old, but the biggest thing in her world is toys. And to a teenager, it's not toys anymore, but it's things like a relationship. So yeah, being empathetic to those things can go a long way.
Now I think this is like a thing that we've seen families struggle. This is like a third one, but it can also be a good one. But we'll just highlight it in the bad part because this is how we've seen families struggle. This is just one of those. This is what they're doing, and they should be switching. But here it is: sacrificing the relationship for the need to be right. Pastor Chris talks about this all the time. He brings it up, and it's a great point to remember because it feels like you have to be right, or you have to be, for parents, obeyed. You have to obey me. You have to listen to me. I'm right. And they're sacrificing the relationship they have with their kid. And I think dating brings that up because this whole arena is a loss of control for parents. They can't control.
Terrifying.
It's terrifying. It's a lot of consequences. It's not a play date where one of your kids hits another kid. You can apologize and move on. This has sometimes life-changing consequences.
Lasting.
Yeah, and they can't be there in every moment. So that scares a parent, and so they're like, no, this is the way it has to be. I don't care if you don't like me. That weighs on a teenager. They're actually going the other way. They're judging it off of whether they do like you, whether they'll listen to you, whether they do have a relationship, and then they'll listen to you. So this is a big one we've seen with parents a lot.
How about in the times that we have really seen families successful through this whole process and build upon that relationship? What are some common traits that we've seen in those scenarios?
Yeah, and you can find families that are that have kids dating and they're doing it well. It seems like there's no way. It's just fear and stuff. But there are families. They're doing well allowing their kids to date. That blew me away as being a youth pastor, seeing some of these things and watching families go and be like, they're doing it right. I respect that family. And the kid seems to like mom and dad. It's like, that can't happen. But it really does. It does. One of those things is the parents are honest about what they see. So I've listened to or I've asked a parent what have they said, and one of the things they say to their teen is that they're honest about how they see the relationship. Now, again, not belittling it, but saying things like, listen, I've been in this situation before. I've been a teenager, and this is what happened. Or I had a friend who, and this is what happened. Doesn't mean it's going to happen with you, but that's why I'm afraid. So an authority figure who's allowed to be transparent in front of their teenager changes their world. Instead of, these are the rules, this is control, it's, here's really where I'm at. You're not even building a case yet. You're just saying, here's my emotions. Here's mine. So,
and what does every teen want to know? Why?
Right.
Why can't I do this? Why
Right.
can't I do that? And sometimes, honestly, the answer is because I said so.
Sure,
But
sure.
to a teenager, that answer doesn't go very far.
No.
They want to know what's the heartbeat behind that. And when a parent can share, when leadership and authority can be transparent,
Yeah.
You gain trust. And when a parent says, hey, this is a big deal, or maybe I overreacted in that moment.
Right.
I kind of got a little emotional, or I blew up a little bit because I've experienced this to be true.
A lot of teams,
that scares me for you.
those teens see that too. They already know. They know you blew up and they know you're scared. So when you can admit that, you just gaining credibility and trust back. So no, you're absolutely right. Another one I have is this: keep it in perspective. That's another one that I've found that I've had to work on personally, but I see parents do well. So they don't get too high, they don't get too low. They keep everything in perspective. These parents know they're not getting married tomorrow. It feels like it, especially because of how intense the relationship can be or seem, or the amount they talk to each other with phones and stuff. But they're not. They're not getting married tomorrow. They have not reserved a chapel. They cannot sign a certificate. They are not getting married. Well, they might run away, but they're not getting married tomorrow. It's just not going to happen. Even at the scariest moments, even when they say they're going to, they're not. They're charged up, but it's not happening. They really do a good job of keeping it in perspective in that moment. But again, and everybody thinks about this, there's the exception. What about the people who met in high school and then got married? And those things happen, but not every day.
And there's a reason why most of us can name the one or two stories, or hey, I knew somebody who they met in 8th grade.
Yeah.
And they're married today. But it's rare enough that we remember their names.
Yeah, that's why it's a story.
So, yeah.
If you knew 50 of those, you wouldn't remember one person's name. It happened once, and they got married after. They kept the relationship going after. They didn't
It
get married
does
at 89.
happen, but it's rare.
It's rare.
But it's rare.
And yes, your kid might think they're the only ones, but don't freak out. Just keep it level. The last thing and this isn't conclusive, but the last thing I see is don't parent your kids the exact same way. And this goes into dating. Some parents have a golden age. 14, they can start dating, or 31 for our girls.
42.
They have this ideal in their head of how it's going to happen. And it shouldn't be. Every kid is different. I heard my sisters and my brother talk about this, like, you did this, and my parents were doing a good job of, well, your brother's different or your sister's different. They can do these things. You can't do those things, but you can do this and they can't do that. So keeping it in that mix will allow you to tailor your parenting style in the best way for that teen.
For each student.
Yeah, and it's easier for us to just put down 16 because then you can drive and you're a little more responsible. But some kids don't have a button for dating until they're older. So you say 16, you're going to push them into it. Some of them are already on it at 14, and so if you're telling them, nope, you have to wait, you're creating some deception in the house then because they're already into it. Now, do I just let them do whatever they want? No. But you do have to think about, how am I going to address this because they're already on to it.
Right. How about for the instances where we've really seen success stories, or maybe just a couple tips for parents who are right in the thick of this as we speak, and they're terrified, they don't know what to do. What are some tips that we could give from what we've seen in youth ministry? Yeah,
we've talked about how the style of parenting has to change, and if you're in the middle of it, you should assume the role of coach. I would say our parents both did a good job of this. Coach, not rule setter, not principal, not cop, but how you should be doing this. And you know what? Here's an idea. Here's what you should think about. Not compromising. Here's the expectations, but here's how you should think about doing this. There's areas that they allowed us to make decisions and guided us in another one. I'd say if you're in the thick of dating, if you have a daughter that's dating a boyfriend or a son dating a girlfriend, here's what you should do. And it sounds crazy, but almost embrace them a little bit. If it's safe, if it's okay, if this isn't a really negative influence, if it's innocent enough, right? I mean, you're not going to do it with somebody dangerous. But have them over for dinner. Say, you got to come over for dinner. Set that as a standard. You got to come over. And then, Dad, talk to them. Corny jokes are okay, but really all it shows is you're just a little insecure about the relationship, and that really doesn't help anybody. Your daughter needs your voice. And that boyfriend needs to hear from the dad about what's going on. And so many dads just forfeit their voice and go, I don't even want to address it. That really doesn't help anybody. If you're right in the middle of it, embrace it. Bring it in. Don't compromise, but keep communication open. And what I have seen is, and it's magical, has been that if you have this strong sense of family, the boyfriend or girlfriend will find their way out because they're not comfortable.
Right.
Or they'll stay around for a little while and you're going,
And
I
embrace that.
I kind of like this person. And hey, that's not such a bad thing.
Be who you are as a family. Instead of intimidating or pushing away, be who you are. Say, come on in the fold. And naturally, if they're not a good influence, they'll find their way out. I also love when I see parents who say, hey, come on over. Bring your friends on over to the house. We have a safe environment where, from the parental, perspective, they can kind of control what's going on. But that's not a bad thing.
No.
And you can then kind of see and understand how they interact together. So give opportunities to come on over to your place where you know exactly what's going to be going on. It's one of the things I've seen really work out.
Yeah, hey, and I would say kind of like our I don't have kids dating yet, so this is kind of nice for both of us. We're not in it. Maybe we'll look back at this in a little while and laugh at this whole thing and go, they didn't know anything. So
That's cute, guys.
Yeah. So I would say to parents who are in the middle of this, or their daughter or son is just fawning over somebody, we're praying for you. We really are, and we really do hope it goes well. Hey, at the end of the day, you do want your kid to date and then eventually get married. So it's just a complicated, murky, sometimes scary situation that you're in. So we're hoping the best for you.